Fire erupts at Nottoway Resort. Charring plantation building. Not the day that she... Not a major plantation burning down the day that Antebellum arrived. You know what? You know what? Yeah. But who said? You know what? Yeah, girl, let me go on back to work and getting paid for it, cause that felt very satisfying. I don't know if it's supposed to. The Nottoway Resort Plantation Home. Nada anymore.
What if I told you the flames that burned down the largest plantation home in the South didn't just start by accident? What if this fire wasn't just the end of a building, but the beginning of justice? For over 160 years, Nottoway Plantation stood as a monument to slavery. Built by our ancestors' blood, sweat, and stolen labor, it was praised for its grandeur, while ignoring the pain that built every brick. But now, that monument is gone. And it wasn't lightning. It wasn't a freak accident. This was the past catching up with itself. Today, we're not just telling a story. We're reclaiming one.
Good evening, I'm John Snell.
And I'm Lauren McCoy. One of Louisiana's most historic plantations erupts into flames.
Nottoway caught fire about 2 this afternoon. Its roof collapsed a little over an hour ago. Andres Fuentes is live there where firefighters have been struggling as they battle the flames.
Lauren, John, we've been out here for maybe 15 minutes or so thus far, and the fire presence, the sheriff's office presence, still very high here as they're trying to monitor some of the hot spots and even put out some significant flames in the front portion of this plantation. I'm going to step out of the way, give you guys a live look right now. Now, this is smoke that you could see from across the river. That's how significant this fire has been. And like we said, they have been fighting this fire for quite some time. It's creeping up to the 7th hour here. Crews have been working, trying their best to navigate parts of the roof that did collapse and navigate sort of the historical structures and columns here in the front, as you can see. But again, very significant police and fire presence out here as they're monitoring the situation. We did see a number of different fire crews switch on out, be replaced with fresh fire crews just to monitor the situation. But again, they have been battling this for almost half a day, or I should say almost half a work day, right? 7 hours now going through. And Dylan, if we can kind of point again toward this plantation, because every time we look away and we look back, we start to see some of those flames flare up yet again, as you can see here at the front portion of the plantation. But we know thus far from officials is that they believe that this fire started in the south portion of this property. That's where there is a museum. They said that around 2 o'clock this afternoon, some workers were going through the facility and they noticed smoke there in the area. They left the area to go alert some of the other staffers. When they came back, that's when they saw the flames really spark about. As of right now, officials don't know how this fire started, but as soon as it started, it seems to just erupt here at this old plantation, one that is one of the largest antebellum plantation in the South, with roots that date back from the 1850s. Now, we do know from officials is that the owner of this property was in the midst of trying to renovate the property, bringing back to a more historical code. We don't know, again, if those renovations caused this fire, but again, just recapping, we do have a fire here at this plantation going on in its 7th hour here in White Castle, Louisiana.
The largest antebellum mansion in the South, a 165-room estate built on the backs of our enslaved ancestors, burned to the ground Thursday in what I call an act of poetic justice, nearly 200 years in the making. The fire began just after 2 p.m. at Nottoway Plantation in White Castle, Louisiana, and quickly consumed all 53,000 square feet of the wooden structure. Despite the efforts of 10 fire departments, the flames could not be stopped. No injuries were reported. To some, this was a tragic loss of history. But for me and many others, especially descendants of those enslaved on that land, it was a long overdue reckoning.
This was the largest antebellum plantation house in the South, owned by one of the richest enslavers in the South. This is the Nottoway Plantation in Louisiana. It was built by enslaved Africans in 1859. It was owned by this guy, John Randolph. Now, John wasn't even from Louisiana. He was from Virginia originally, but he came from a wealthy slave-owning family, and his dad was hired by the federal government, and he moved with him. Now, originally, he wanted to make it into a cotton plantation, the same type of plantation that he was used to in Virginia. But he noticed that the climate in Louisiana was a lot different, so he changed it to a sugar plantation. And because of that, he ended up tripling his family's wealth. And he was a huge financial backer of the Confederacy in Louisiana. When he realized that the Confederacy was losing, he left his wife in Louisiana, took 200 slaves, and went to Texas. Once the Civil War was over, he eventually died in 1883, and his wife eventually sold the plantation for $50,000. That's the equivalent of $1.9 million today. And now he has no legacy at all.
I keep telling y'all, these spirits that you keep playing with, keep joking about, are not playing with you. So you see that Nottoway Plantation just so happened to burn down. A plantation that slaves built. A plantation that's been around since 1859. Just out of the blue, it burned down. Matter of fact, look at this shit. Look at this. So you telling me that just randomly happened? That fire just randomly started? Yeah, okay. You got these people playing around with this Antebellum doll that's on tour. You got people calling on spirits that they're not supposed to be calling on, and look what happened. And let me say this. A lot of people are upset because this house burned down. What about the people that built that plantation? What about the slaves that built that plantation? See, what a lot of people don't understand is in Louisiana, these plantations still exist. We just don't know about them. We just don't hear about them. But they are still there. Which means what? It means those spirits are still there. And it also means that some of those spirits were waiting in the afterlife for that plantation to be gone. Somebody's ancestors risked their life to build that. I'll tell you what I do know. I know for a fact that if you call on something and it hears you, it will definitely come, whether you believe it or not. I took a trip to New Orleans, and let me tell you this. When I took that trip, my spirit didn't feel right. It's a wonderful town. I enjoyed myself, but my spirit didn't feel right. I don't have bad things to say about Louisiana, but what I will say is my spirit felt that something is there. And this right here proves exactly what I'm talking about. Y'all better learn how to leave well enough alone, or you're going to find yourself in a situation that you can't get out of.
Something paranormal is happening in this photo. If you don't know, this is the Nottoway Plantation that is going up in flames, or went up in flames, because it is gone, it's charred. But the ancestors was there while it was happening. As the flames were going up, the ancestors were there. And I want to show you how paranormal and freaky this photo is. It is not edited. I want to put a disclaimer out here. This is not edited. This is not tampered with. You can Google this image and you can zoom in for yourself. And I'm going to zoom in right here where the archways are, where the flames are happening, and show you that the ancestors was in attendance. Look at this. I can't make this up. Again, this is unedited. Do you see two figures in the archways? Like, I can't make that up. And so when I seen this, I was like, oh my gosh, there's spirits in that plantation. And it's like right there. Like your eyes, yes, you can make all the excuses you want, but my eyes are not lying, and I hope you guys see what I see. I see a woman right here, and I see a man right there. Okay? It's circled. You can see as clear as day in those archways. I know there's people that's going to dispel it, and that's fine. There's always going to be people who are skeptical, but I see very clearly with my two eyes, I see two spirits.
Y'all hear about that plantation in Louisiana? Burned right down to the ground, took all night for firefighters to put it out. I mean, oh no, where will the rich racist white girls have their weddings? Oh no. I am of the mindset that you should never turn a fucking plantation into a venue. What the fuck is wrong with you? When I tell you that the history books where you learned about slavery, they kind of like grazed what slavery really was. They did not go into the nitty-gritty details, because if they did, I can promise you, you would never want your wedding at a plantation. And honestly, even with the grazed history of it, why the fuck would you want your wedding at a plantation? What is wrong with you? All plantations should be burned down and turned into little museums of the atrocities that were committed there, because I really, truly fucking think that where we have whitewashed the history and glorified, to be honest, glorified the history of slavery, the newer generations that choose to get married at these plantations are like, oh, it wasn't that bad. They were given like shelter and stuff, and they were just like servants. No, babes, they were treated like livestock. They were selectively bred. They were eaten. They were eaten. They were whipped until they had no flesh left on their backs. The women were systematically raped by white men. The white plantation owners would pit their male slaves against other white plantation owners' male slaves in boxing matches, sometimes to the death. But go ahead and have your little shitty wedding there. May your unholy union be cursed by all of the slave spirits that are there watching you have a fun time on the side of their historical atrocity.
Our ancestors is jumping in joy right now. What a beautiful sight this is, y'all. Isn't this a beautiful sight? When I seen this, I was like, bye. We ain't gonna miss you. First thing that came to my mind was Usher. I'm like, let that bitch burn. So for the people that don't know, this was the Nottoway Plantation in Louisiana, the largest remaining antebellum mansion in the U.S. I mean, was the largest. I'm not gonna lie, y'all. This joint had to go. This house right here then enslaved over 300 people. Our ancestors. This joint had 64 rooms and it took up 53,000 square feet. I'm glad it's gone. Let me get some GGs down in the chat if y'all feel how I feel. Like, I don't give a fuck about this bitch burning. Let it burn. So y'all don't get it? America loves to preserve the parts of the history that they're proud of, but they always want to cover up the truth.
To the white people that are so fucking mad that we don't give a fuck about that Nottoway fucking plantation that was just burned down, fuck you. First of all, why the fuck would we give a fuck about a plantation that our ancestors were slaved on, murdered, hung, beat, raped, and forced into fucking labor, forced to pick fucking cotton as they hands bleed? Bitch, we don't give a fuck that y'all mad. Let that motherfucker burn. And to all the people that said, oh, it's for the history, we humbly decline that history, because y'all done played in our face too fucking long. Y'all talking about history when, bitch, all we see is fucking movies about slavery. This, oh massa, oh come on massa. How many fucking root movies was it? Did we even need all them fucking root movies? Write it down, take a picture, but we didn't need that fucking plantation to be standing that fucking long anyway. Thanks, Antebellum.
Look at what's left behind. Ashes, smoke, silence. For some, it's just a burned building. But for us, it means something deeper. That house was built by people who were never meant to have a voice, never meant to have a name, never meant to be free. But they were our ancestors, and today they are speaking loud and clear. For years, they called it a historic landmark. They gave tours through weddings and celebrated Southern grandeur. But they didn't talk about the pain, the rape, the chains, the children sold away, all of it hidden behind white columns and pretty curtains. That mansion wasn't just history. It was a symbol of how this country tried to erase us while holding on to the things it built by breaking us. But guess what? You can't bury truth forever. You can't build over pain and expect it not to rise. So now the plantation is gone, not by nature, not by chance, but by fire. And maybe, just maybe, our ancestors had something to do with that. Spirit don't rest easy when injustice stands tall. And if you felt that in your bones, if your spirit stirred watching those flames, that's not hate. That's memory. That's history rising up. That's justice echoing through time. Let this be a reminder. We are not forgotten. Our people, our past, our truth, it's still here and we will speak it. Not just in books, not just in schools, but right here in our own voices. So don't let this be the last time you hear us. Drop a comment, share this story, pass it down like our grandparents passed down wisdom, with pride and power. Because when we remember, when we speak, and when we reclaim our story, we are unstoppable. This isn't the end, it's just the beginning. Thank you for watching. And to our ancestors, this one was for you.